So once again, on the instructions, you guys can see actually what to expect for the final, which questions they are. So questions 13 and 14 from the final, we have find the area of each sector. So I noticed that we have 135 degrees out of the whole circle. So we're going to go 135 over 360. That's what we have. And we're going to multiply this because I'm asking for area. We're going to talk about area of a circle. Since the radius is 12, I'm going to call this 144 pi. Remember radius squared? So that's how I got the 144. Make it a fraction. If you have a calculator that multiplies fractions and simplifies it, then obviously just type it in, you're done. Otherwise, we're going to simplify. When we multiply a fraction, we multiply straight. So that's the only way we cannot simplify. So I'm looking at 135 over 360. Let me divide each by, I don't know, 9, just to make it smaller. Let me divide each by 9. 135 divided by 9 is 15. 360 divided by 9 is 40. 15 over 40, we can still do better. Let me divide each by 5, and I'm going to get 3 over 8. Now, diagonal, I can simplify diagonal because that's not how I multiplied. My 8 and my 144, let me divide each by 8. So this is a 1. 144 divided by 8 is 18. So just to make it a little bit clean, I have 3 over 1 times 18 pi over 1. Right? That's basically what I have. And I know I multiply straight. 3 times 18 is 54. So I have 54 pi over 1, which is better known as 54 pi. And obviously for us to type it in, we're going to go 54 pi. Any questions on these? Okay. Then we move into questions 15 and 16 from the final. It says find the length of each arc. Here we have 225 degrees. So I'm going to go 225 over 360. But now since I'm talking about the length, the distance around the circle, we call that circumference. Since the radius is 10, I'm going to call the circumference 20 pi. It's radius times 2. And just like the previous question, we multiply straight. So that's the only way we cannot simplify. So 225 over 360, let me divide each by 9 to begin with. So I have 25 over 40. Let me simplify by 5 to make this even better. So I have 5 over 8. Diagonal, the 8 and the 20, I can divide each by 4. So I have 2 and 5. So just to keep it clean, I have 5 over 2 times 5 pi over 1, which becomes 25 pi over 2. Or when you guys type it is 25 pi over 2. Any questions on these? Okay. Now, question 17 through 20 on the final, we have find the surface area of each figure. This case, we have a prism or cylinder. In this case, a prism. For prisms or cylinders, I'm always going to think of a big rectangle, always a big rectangle in the center, and then two bases. The bases could be any shape they are. In this case, the base is a hexagon. So I'm going to go and draw my two bases. The bases could be circles if it's a cylinder, could be triangles if I have a triangular prism. It's a big rectangle and two bases. So looking at the base, I have to remember how to get the area of a polygon. In this case, we're looking at a polygon, and I remember it is 1/2 times 5.2, which is the apothem, times the perimeter, which is 36. Right. Each side is 6. There are 6 sides. So 36 is the distance around the base. So I'm just going to multiply that out. 1/2 times 5.2 times 36. That gives me 1/2 times. So each base happens to be 93.6. Now, for the rectangle, the distance that has nothing to do with the base is a 5. So that's going to be the small side of my rectangle. The long side of the rectangle, it's perimeter. So in this case, 36. Right? I use perimeter there, so I already have the number, right? 36. So the rectangle is 36 times 5, which is 180. That's just the rectangle. So now, for me to know what's the area of everything, I'm going to go 180 plus 93.6 plus 93.6, and it is 367.2. So when we have prisms or cylinders, a big rectangle, remember this right here, the 5 was the height. The number has nothing to do with the base. This 36 was the perimeter of the base. And then obviously your bases, depending on what shape you got. It could be a triangle, it could be a rectangle, it could be a circle. Then we also have the cases when we have a pyramid. Now in this case, the base is a triangle. So I'm going to do my triangle for my base. And I know triangle, I'm looking for the two numbers across the 90 degrees, which in this case are 7 and 6.1. So I'm going to multiply 7 times 6.1 and then divide it by 2 because it's a triangle. I'm going to go 7 times 6.1 divided by 2. So the base is 21.35. Then on each of the sides of the base, I have a triangle on each of the sides. So let me see, I have 3 triangles in this case. For these triangles, I'm gonna go 7 times 8.3 divided by 2 for each of them. I'm gonna go 7 times 8.3 divided by 2. Each of my triangles is 29.05. So add everything. So I'm going to go 29.05 times 3. And then my result, I'm going to add it to 21.35. And I get that my answer should be 108.5. So prisms or cylinders, the previous question, it was a big rectangle and 2 bases. Pyramids and cones, it's a base and a bunch of triangles. When it comes to the cone though, let me erase this real quick. When it comes to the cone, let's say I had something like this, and I gave you guys that the radius is 10, and the lateral height, this number right here, let me call it 5. Once you made it flat, your cone should look something like this. Your circle, you know, is going to be 100 pi, because radius squared, right? 10 times 10. So that's the circle. Now for this other thing is going to be 10 times 5, which is 50 pi. That is this part. So altogether should be 150 pi. So that's for a cone. Any questions on these? Now when it comes to volume, prisms or cylinders, the formula is area of the base times the height. The base in this case is a pentagon. So I know the area of a pentagon is 1/2 times the apothem times the perimeter. Each side is 12. There's 5 sides. So I'm going to say the perimeter is 60. Right? 12 times 5. So that's the area of the base. The height is 4. So just multiply that. So I'm going to go 1/2 times 8.3 times 60 times 4. And your answer should be 996. So prisms or cylinders. Thank you. Prisms or cylinders is area of the base times height. Now, when we have pyramids or cones, we're going to go, the volume is area of the base times height divided by 3. So here, the base is a rectangle. It's a 7 by 4 rectangle. We talk about how to get the area of a rectangle. It's 28. And that was what we talked about yesterday. The height is 8, and I have to divide this by 3. So I'm going to go 28 times 8 divided by 3. Rounded to the nearest tenth, so I should get 74.7. All right, basically, that we reached question number 24 in the final. Any questions on these?